Hey everybody, it's Kate Quinn from Fabricated Quilts, and I am a Sew Steady educator and a Westalee accredited teacher, and I have some fun stuff for you today. And I do have my super duper stage managing helper here who's going to help relay questions, and I think we'll wait just a minute or two to let people sign on. I think we're just maybe a minute or two early, but if you can hear me really well and the picture seems good, I'm going to flip the camera. Let me know, and that way I can make sure that we're all set up for the broadcast. Okay, so here we go. We're flipping. Hi, Ms. Peggy. Everything okay in terms of visual and sound? So that's our camera setup for today. That's a little pre-sewing, but lots of great information that we're going to give you. All right. So I believe it is time. So we are going to get started. Hi, Sharon. Hi, Lillian. Hi, Patty. Okay, so let's start off with just a little bit of chat real quick. Hi, Miss Carol. So many times when we are quilting and we have to do a border, we have problems because the borders might not fit the stencil that we're using. They definitely sometimes don't fit our templates. If we're seam allowance varies or anything like that, it can be really tricky to make something fit just perfectly. And so what I want to do today is show you a few different ideas, and this is by no means an exhaustive idea, but it may show you some ideas that you can use yourself so that you can change or adapt or fit borders to meet your needs. So the first thing that I want to talk about before we start is if we have a border space right here, for example, this one with these parallel lines, this is marked for this heart template right here, continuous border heart. So right here in this square, at some point, we have to transition this design and make it turn and then be able to nicely, symmetrically come out and do the other side. So what are some of the challenges that we face is that this design, number one is it might not actually hit right here at this miter. So that could be one problem. And then even if it did, then it's not designed to turn. It doesn't have the ability to fit these pieces right here. So sometimes if you're doing digital quilting, you can make something fit, but a lot of times with templates, the templates are not resizable. So the name of the game is fudging and planning. Those are the two biggest things that will help you. So the first template that we're going to use is called the rope template. So let me grab that. And this is in the border sampler set. So you can see I've got my stable tape on it already. And this particular one is the 2.5. That means that the height here is 2.5. And then here up at the top, it tells you how long for one complete rope. So this is 6.5 for this particular one. And we do have several different sizes. So I've already kind of pre-planned to put these into different spaces just so you can see how they work. So the rope goes on this side. And the first concept that we're going to do for this one, so it's kind of hard to see, but this would be our miter. So our additional border would continue down here right at this 45. So I'm going to start the design right on the miter for this one. So this is really I call this the over-under method. So what will happen is this design will start on the miter, and I will sew all the way down to the next miter, and then no matter where it ends right when it hits the miter. So you could have a little piece, a big piece of it, it doesn't matter, you're just whatever you get at the end, that's what you get. So in order to fit this template has a center line right here, so I'm going to line it up. And this angle, this is a 45-degree angle. So that's why this one works really well with this design. So I'm going to get my spacing gauge and we'll get all set. And hopefully no bonbons today. I'm on a diet. but you know how it goes. All right, so first lining up on the center line here, and then we'll get our foot in place at one of the corners. And let's make sure we're all lined up. Okay, good. All right, so I'm just gonna pick up that thread right there in the corner. Ooh, let's make him a little longer. He didn't like that. All right, tricky, tricky, here we go. Okay. So I've got my center line lined up. I definitely will be able to pick up the thread at this point because it's really long. And I'll go ahead and I'm gonna tack a little bit. So when we do this first one, we'll do the whole shape and we should be right on this line. So I wanna try to get that as much as possible. So let's make sure that we're spaced properly. All right, so ideally we want to try to sew right down that line for this first design. And that sort of sets the parameters for the miter. Okay, now this template is very cool. He is 2.5 inches from top to bottom. And my space right now is a 3-inch space. And I like to use the 2.5 because then the rope doesn't eat right into the seam allowance. So that might be something to think about with some of these templates. Ooh, let's close that. There we go. So we'll just go back down. I'll go all the way to the bottom. I don't have to. I could just stop up there. But this is a really concrete place to move. And then right here in front, you'll be able to see this alignment right here. So then again, lining up on the center line. And all we have to do this time is just the top. And we'll just keep that same double stitching here, and that'll make that very, very symmetrical. The double stitching will be on each of these midlines here. So this isn't very long. This template does sew up pretty fast. It's pretty simple, but I gotta sew. So if you have any questions, why don't you go ahead and send those over to our production manager, and I'll try to answer those and see if I can sew and answer questions at the same time. We'll see how that goes. All right, so lining it up right here, getting us on our center line and coming around. So you'll see on some of the other ones, I did a little bit of pre-sewing, so you don't just have to watch me sew for too long. It's a little more practical for the type of class that we have today. All right, so here's our next one, lining up right on the reference line and on this center line. Now, I can often pre-mark. If I knew how much space that I had, I know that this template takes 6.5 from this side to get the full clamshell. And you know, you can measure those out if you wanted to plan. So what we're doing today is we're assuming that you're one of those people that doesn't really want to do that, because I'll be telling you the truth, I don't really want to do that either. I want to make it work, but I don't want to mark the whole quilt and have to do all kinds of crazy stuff to make it fit. So here we have to come to the miter line, and then we want to stitch on the miter. And so I think it might be easier if we do this larger area right here and then just fudge this part a little bit. So we'll come up this way. We'll come up to the top. We'll fill this out. And there's our miter. So if I really needed a perfectly straight miter, then I can take the template off and I can use a straight edge. I'm going to just turn it a little bit and see if I can fudge it. That way I don't have to move the template.
So for some of the people just joining, can you say again what the templates are that you're using?
So this is, so the question that I just got was, what template am I using? I am using the rope. It's the 2.5C, which is the continuous rope template. So let's make sure that we are lined up here so we can connect. Okay, and now we'll be on this miter right here, and now we can line up this center line. So let's take this off just so you can see what we've done so far and what we're going to do. Okay, so notice that the rope here is cut off. On the other side, the rope is complete. So this side will have the full rope, and then as it sews down, when it gets to this miter, chop. I'm just gonna cut it off right there, and it's gonna be half. It doesn't matter. You might have a little bit of it, just a little knuckle of it, whatever, but it's just gonna be cut off. So the technique that we're talking about right now, I call it the over-under technique. And I'll show you why. When we put this next one on, let's see if I can get this thing back in here.
Is that a free motion foot?
Okay, so Connie, no, it is not. This is a ruler foot. We are doing all ruler work today. Everything that we're sharing is a ruler work technique. So we want to make sure that everything that we do, we have an appropriate ruler foot that will work with our template. So my machine is a high shank style, and this is an integrated ruler foot that comes with my machine. And the reason that we need it, it has a very tall sidewall, which protects the ruler from getting up in there for the most part, unless we are really acting crazy. And then in addition, that circle right here with the needle in the center, the circle is a 1/2 inch. That means that wherever the template is touching, then the distance for the needle is a 1/4 inch. So that's why we're often using our spacing gauge, because we know that the template has to be a 1/4 inch away in order to sew appropriately. Now I'm going to just turn this really quick so you can see what my alignment is. So I've got to get myself lined up where this midline lines up both ways. Okay, and now you can see where my foot position is. And let's make sure that we're a 1/4 inch. All right, I'm going to sew up just a little bit, give us some room to adjust. I think that's better. Okay, so there's our 1/4 inch right there. We're on the midline, and now we can start going that new direction. I think I put my key in backwards. It did not like that. Okay, so we'll close the design here by touching, and we'll come back up. And then just like we did before, we'll come back down to the bottom. And at this point, if this continued down here, we would just move down, touch the template, and line up this midline, and we could keep going until we hit the next miter. And then the next miter, wherever it is, we are going to sew until we hit it, and then just cut it off, just like we did here. And even though that doesn't allow your rope to turn around, so let's see. So right here, look right here. I'm going to show you guys something that I failed to do. Let me tack this off and I'll cut this. So here, if we move this down to the next one, let me get this piece in here properly. I think I had him upside down and he gave me a very wonky fill. We do need a little bit of a partial right here. So let's get ourselves set back where we were. Okay, so right here, we need this line right there to connect that next little piece. So we would line this up on the bottom right here. And we should go ahead and close this portion of the design because it's not closed. So we can do that now. I'll just stick my needle in there and tack it off. So many times when we're on the live, it's a little bit hard to see everything that's going on. So I'm lining up right here and trying to get my midline also. There we go. I think I'll have to get him up a little bit higher. There we go. Maybe one more stitch. All right, so this is kind of what you would get. You would get this little closure here, and then this guy's gonna turn the corner and all of the next pieces will start coming down there. And even though this doesn't look what I would say perfectly perfect, what you'll get is symmetrical. As you go around, one will be on top and one will be underneath. So the suggestion is that this one's under and this one's over. And it'll work if you have a square or if you have a rectangle, it doesn't matter. It can work on any size. And then you may get different sizes for your little piece on here on the end, but it's still a really easy way to get this to turn the corner. And like I said, it's only one way. There's lots of different options, but this is just one way, okay? So this is our rope template, and that style, again, is called over and under. So let's go ahead, we'll pick the next one. The next one is, I call it the forced miter, okay? So let's go to this side. This is a clamshell. So a clamshell, how do you experiment with templates to see how it will work? So that's a really good question. So let's talk about that right now. We'll do it right here. So the clamshell right here, we're gonna sew it like this. We'll sew it with this part right here. We're gonna presume maybe that it would not naturally come right into the corner. Of course, if it did, then we're perfect. We don't need any adjustments if everything matches, right? But let's say it doesn't match. Okay, so let me get everybody lined up and we'll sew in. And I'm gonna use my stitching line discs, and this is in reference to I think it was Kim Renfro was asking, I think, about how do you audition it. So I can take this, and this is, as I told you, this is called forced mitering. So and I'll show you what that means real quick. So we have this shape right here. And let's say that this spacing here on this side, maybe it's even bigger. Maybe it doesn't quite match, or maybe it's smaller. It doesn't have to be symmetrical, because if you have a rectangle, you may have a different meet point on this side than you would on this side. So we'll just make this one kind of meet right there. Okay, so you don't have to draw everything. All you really need is the connection right there. So these templates, this is 3-inch across and 3-inch across. So if I was doing this at home, I would mark the center of the border and I would mark it off in 3-inch or 6-inch units. And then let's say that my units ended up hitting the border corner right there. And so all you need is a little corner that is the width of your border on a piece of paper. You don't even need it on fabric. Okay, so the forced miter is where I'm gonna take the design and I'm gonna make it match. So I want a little bit of a curve. So I think I'll just say this is my random matching point, okay? You can audition, again, you can try different points to see if you like something better. So let's say that this is where our meat is. I'm going to turn this template, because it's the same shape, it's the same arc. We want to keep a little bit of sympathetic designing, and I'm going to stitch up until I hit that spot. Now this would mean that I sewed from the middle here all the way to that point, and I would have either marked or sewn this side. Okay, and now from here I can go to here and I can match this other side up the same way. Oh, I missed, but you get the idea, right? So when we sew that, these are the same curve that this is, just a little bit less of it and used in a different way. We'll let you put a little designer border. And if your quilt is rectangular, you can see that this kind of has a little longer curve than this. They're not exactly symmetrical, but if your quilt is a rectangle, then this will be the same on the different corners. So even though it looks wonky just in one corner, this wonk will be the same with the other corners, and then you will be able to have a symmetrical looking design. Where do you get the little circles for the 1/4 inch? Okay, so this piece of equipment is called a stitching line disc. Here, I'm going to write it on here. Stitching line disc. It's a very inexpensive piece of our Sew Steady equipment. It's available at sewsteady.com or any Sew Steady authorized retailer. The packaging, I believe, is only $6 and you get 8 of them. And let me show you one more real quick while we're sharing these. So if you can see these two, see how this holes are different sizes inside? I don't know, can you see that? One is that size. Let's bring it up to the camera a little bit. Right, and then this one is a little skinnier. And so we have 4 different sizes of holes on the inside, but the circle is the same size. And the reason for that might be if I'm using this is like a mechanical pencil, maybe I would be drawing with a pen, and this is fat, and then maybe I'm using a quilt marker that's like this. Different marking utensils are going to have different size holes, and you want to pick the one that is the best fit for your tool. See one, if I use this big hole, moves around a lot. Whereas if I use this hole, he goes with me and he stays with me. So this would be a more appropriate size for this marking utensil. Hi, Miss Debbie. I see so many fun faces and fun names coming up. Okay, so this is fudging right here. And the way that this one would work is you would be sewing this one right here, and you would tie off at the miter, and you would sew the other way. And, you know, if let's say that this curvature was different and we had like more of the curve that came out so it's really high like this, well, maybe I would choose something like this so that it would have to come back in a little bit and then come back out. So this is a really great place to play and to use your auditioning tools and see what works. And I have a handout photo that I'll add on my Facebook page later if anybody wants to see specifically with the clamshell. There are steps for filling this in and then steps for fudging, and it has a visual. So I'll put that on my Facebook page after our live in case anybody wants to see more ideas for how to use this particular. So this is forced mitering. So that's our next design. Okay, so let's go.
So I had a cough. So somebody just asked Lori, can I use a triple bean stitch with ruler quilting?
Oh, I'm going to say no, because this is a free motion skill. In order to use a triple bean stitch, you would have to be not in free motion mode in order for it to be regulated or stitched correctly. If you wanted to stitch 3 times, you know, back and forth, go ahead, but I'm not going to do that. I mean, there's no reason not to if you want, you know, a heavier stitch, but I don't have the patience for that. So there's other people out there that do, I'm sure. So let's go ahead. We'll go to our next design. And I want to talk about this next design really quick because this is such a great template. This is the Continuous Hearts border, and I love it. It's totally beautiful. This is how it sews out. But whenever I sew it, I always mess it up. I don't think it's one of our easiest ones. So what I have done is I went ahead and I marked this 1.5 inch. And so I'm going to go ahead and I sewed a little bit, and I have it set up so I think I can maybe put one more, and then we'll kind of see what we want to do here. I've got an idea, but as I said, I didn't pre-program all of this because I want you to see how we have to make those choices as we as we design. Rulers make quilting easier, they make it faster and more accurate, but what can happen is they don't do the designing for you. Darn it, right? So this template is designed to be used on both sides, so I do have grips on both sides. And the way that this one works is we're going to sew up, and then this side will come back down. So it'll be like this, half, and then down again. So let me get it set up real quick. So right here is the centering line, and then we'll get this lined up right here. I want to show you real quick what we need to look for. The reason I made these spacings is I need to hit that line. This is 1.5 inches. And for some reason, mine always go wonky. So I went ahead and I marked them in. And I'm going to make sure that this is the correct spacing right here so that I will do what I need to do. All right, so we'll go ahead and we'll sew up. We should just hit that line. Come right into the hook, and then let's go ahead and we'll show you the other side. So of course we do not turn our quilts when we have a big quilt, but for learning purposes, I think it's really important that we do that. So I'm going to get everybody here lined up, and I need to make sure that I have this 1/4 inch right here. So for this template, I really think that the spacing gauge is really valuable. And then we want to try to line up right here, so it's right on this line right there. So, yay, perfect. So I really think that additional markings for this particular template are super helpful. Now, what are we going to learn with this one? This one, we are going to do something, and I'm going to call it using a second template, a different template that kind of has a little sympathy for what we're doing. So right here, as we come in, I don't know if you can see this, but this would be the line for how big. This is the 1.5 inch, right? And this is where this side would cross right there at the same 1.5 inch. If we were coming in on this side, this is where they cross the miter together. So let me show you what I'm going to do. I'm going to try, instead of lining it up so I get this side, I'm literally going to come in to that cross between the two sides. You might have to do it the other way. He'll sew outside if I do it that way. Let's see if we can do it this way. Oh, I think we need one more. We won't be able to make that pretty. All right, so we'll do one more. We'll get down to the bottom here. I think we're going the wrong way, right? Anybody see that? Okay, I got it now. Ooh, I think we could do that. Perfect, that's what we'll do. There's our miter right there. I had it the wrong way. I was looking at the circle, but we need the V down here on the bottom. So we're gonna adjust the V to come into our little intersection. So there's our 1/4 inch. So we'll come right into that intersection. All right, so now what? So now I'm gonna set this aside really quickly, and I'm gonna show you what we're gonna do. Let me grab my other template.
So Connie asked if these templates will work with the Janome 10,001 machine.
Sure, Connie, absolutely. So I have a Janome that I'm sewing on right now, and they absolutely will work. Okay, so I'm going to show you real quick what we're going to do. I want to come in right here, but I want to shift the template down slightly. If I have it all the way up, there's a big space right here. Okay, so I'm just going to shift it down just slightly so that I can make sure that I'm not going to sew outside the boundary. And then right here is where we need to end up. So I'm going to go ahead and just get it lined up with my spacing gauge. So I'm checking both of these, and I'm not right down at the corner, but we'll make the other side match. Okay, Now this template is the 3-inch heart, and of course it has a very similar look to it because of the hearts. So they're very sympathetic to one another. So let me flip it around. We've got to do this other side. So the foot will sit right in the footrest, and then we're just going to make it match on this side. Right there. And that should fit, I think so. All right, I'm going to pull this off really quick. I'll let you see it. Right, so now the heart is right in the middle. And if we want to, we can go ahead and we can put this in right here. Now that we're there, we can kind of complete this side if we want to. If we don't want to, we can leave it open and we can just fill that in with some other quilting. It's easy to do. And now we have this reference line. So we need to come with the V out here. We're going to create a mirror image right here. So we know the V has to be here. And we'll use our spacing gauge again, get ourselves right where we need to. Let me turn it real quick. I got to get it lined up for myself. I got the camera right in front of me. So let's see. I want to make sure I've got it the right direction. There we go. Are we doing it this way or that way? Nope, can't be that way. It's got to be this way. There we go. So we don't want too big of a gap. We only have a little gap on this side. So let's go ahead and see if we're in the right spot. So I might flatten this out just a little bit because I can tell that it's bigger on the other side. So we'll flatten it a little to get it a little bit more symmetrical. All right, so there we go, and then we can start designing and we can use the lines and complete this part of the design now on the other side. Okay? So Connie, this is a free demo. This is going to be available on sewsteady.com. There's no DVD for purchase. It's just free content. So we are happy that you're here, and I'm glad that you're enjoying it and finding it useful. Barb, I'm sorry. I don't know why it's repeating. That's got to be internet, not me. So, okay. So rather than just continue sewing, but you can see that our alignment is here. And we'll go ahead and we'll move on to the next element. Let me just tie this off because I'll probably come back and finish this later. Okay. And you can always, put whatever fudging in there that you want to do. You don't have to, do exactly this, but, something that has the symmetry. That's what you're looking for, something that kind of has this heart. We could have turned the heart the other way so that the heart had the point on this side, and then that would be a totally different look, and then you would have the points kind of coming out, just like the points here are coming out. So there's lots of different options for you to play. It's not that this is the only way, but what you've got to think about is what measurements do I need if I'm trying to put something right here that will be the same. And so I really encourage you to play with the path right here so that you can remember that, because I did one yesterday and I couldn't figure out how to get back to the other side. So it is really important. Like you can put little dots for measuring, put your miter line, and that would be really a useful way to help you. Okay, so let's go ahead. We'll go to our next one. All right, so this one, I'm going to show you just something. It's going to look kind of crazy, but just go with me here. So in this one, we used the inside of the miter, and we used a secondary template. And this time, we're going to use the miter as well, but in a different way. So this is the continuous border loop, and I just recently did a use video on this template. I like it, and it looks like a fish. So it's fun for me. It makes me happy because it's so cute. And I've got that video available in case anybody really likes this and wants to use this template, and that's on Fabricated Quilts Facebook page. So also free as well. So let's get these threads out of there. So let's get everybody lined up. The reference lines for this template are very easy to use. There's a center line here, so I'll get my center line lined up. And we're going to sew into the miter a little bit. Okay, so let me show you what that looks like. I'm going to sew in, continue the design a little bit. And I think we can get one more. All right, so I want you to see it, so let me flip it. Is it?
Questions on your planning from Wilhelmina. Is it kind of better to start at the corner first? And Lillian asked, you know, drawing it out on paper, using that as a practice before getting on the fabric. So
Lillian, I will tell you that I draw on paper an absolute ton. Let's see if I can you grab that paper over there that's on the floor, the really big one? So I definitely like to draw it out because you don't know how it's going to look. You don't know if you're going to like it. So sometimes I've done things and, you know, it worked out great and some things didn't. So like here would be an example of planning right there. Didn't really like that one that well. Loved how this one turned out. Here's a different one right there on the bottom. Love that. That turned out awesome. But that's way too complicated for what we're trying to do here in class, so that's not what we're showing right now. So I absolutely do draw things out. And let me show you one other one real quick. So this is one that I did with the current template that we're doing right now. And I like it. It's wonky, but it's also very busy compared to the simplicity of this part of the design. So even though I do like this and I think it looks cool, it might be too much and it draws the eye's focus here and it doesn't let the nice simplicity of this part of the design show. So I decided that this wasn't one that I would probably use in a quilt because this is too much for this design. So you're also looking for what fits your style, what fits the density of your quilting, things like that. Definitely draw it out. It's totally worthwhile to do that. All right, so right here, it's very faint, but that is our miter line. So I'm lined up here and I'm lined up on my center line, just like we did all these other ones. And as I come in here, I'm gonna stop on the miter line, okay? So we'll just stop on the miter. So right about there. All right, so what's next? So we've gone as far as we can go, and I want to take this off real quick just so you can see how far in we are onto the other border. So we're at the miter, and I don't know if you can see this line. I've already sort of pre-marked it right there. Each of these is 2 inches right here, and so half is 1 inch. So if I line this up so that it matches, let's see, we need to go out. I think we did it like that. There we go. So we need to go on that side. Okay, always turning again. All right, so we're on the miter line, and this reference line right here that we made that 2 inch mark, now this is where we're gonna start going over on this side. So let's get lined up in the middle, get our reference lines lined up. Okay, there we go. And I'll just do maybe one more so you can kind of get the idea of the design. So we line this up, and this is a pretty simple, but we're not done with the corner yet. So the corner looks kind of empty, but it won't in just a minute. Let's just put one more of these in, and then I'll show you what we're gonna do. So I'll just tie off right here, get this guy closed, and we'll cut him. So we have kind of this wonky space right here in the middle, and we have a big opening right here. Well, I can literally take this template now, and I can put him in any way I want. I can match him up there, and I can leave this open right here and connect those back to the corner. So let's do that. I'll show you my thought process here as I go. So looks like it's a little bit, there we go. Okay, so we'll start up here. This is the boundary of the block right up here. So we'll try to get our corners right on the boundary line and on the miter line. I think I am lined up, hopefully so. All right. So the bottom, I could stitch across right here to connect it, but let me show you something that I think might be even better. So this will make kind of a little open wonkiness right here, and what I think would be nice and sympathetic would be to curve it up and curve it down. And then that'll kind of create a closure right there. And remember, your border would be sewn in, so this wouldn't be open. This space would be the same on each side. So let me see if I have a little arc shape that we can use real fast. And you know what I do is I don't say, oh, this fits perfectly. I'm just like, oh, what do I have that can give me this curve that I want? You know, and then I try to see if I can make it fit. So there's a 1/4 inch right there. And then we'll try to make it symmetrical on this side as much as we can. Maybe that. And I might be a little bit more precise if I needed, you know, something exact. Okay, so let's cut that. So maybe I would want to make a reference line here so that I could have the curves be the same, or make a little dot on this curve of where I start and where I stop. But you can see then you can get just a fun little shape that kind of is reminiscent of some of the other shapes that are in here. This arc right here, this kind of has that same look, so it has a little sympathy between the two styles. So that's kind of what you're looking for. Whenever you fudge, or whenever you embellish, or whenever you put some little innovator in there, you do want to choose something that is sympathetic to the density of the existing design, and then you also want to choose something that kind of has that flavor, like, you know, Persian templates and geometrics. They maybe don't flow as nicely together in that same border style. So you want to play with that, and then you have the opportunity to keep the design looking very unified and has you know, a good feel to it. Okay, so let's see where we're at. So let me cut some of these threads really quick.
So a couple questions. Carol asks, on the rope template, the sizes are 1.5 A, B, C, D, and E, 2.5 A, B, C, D, and E, etc. What are the letters?
So the letters give you information about how, let me go to the rope real quick. So maybe one rope is long like this. You know, it might have the same, but the slant on it might be longer. So mine is kind of an upright, but then maybe you might get a rope that's a lot longer that kind of is laying down a little bit more. And those, the information for those is in our Sew Steady catalog, which is available electronically. And it will tell you, for example, if it's 6.5 or if the distance here is 4.5, because what it measures is this distance across the bottom. And that information is written in the catalog. So that is available if you wanted, like I call it the lazy rope, or you want, you know, the soldier at attention rope where he's really upright. You'll get a little different look. And so you may get the same depth here, but maybe the rope will be leaning over a little bit. And so that'll be some information that you would find useful, that, you know, you want something that'll kind of fit your style. Okay, so we've done, let's do feathers now. Okay, so I pre-stitched some of the feathers because I didn't want you to have to wait while I was sewing all of that. And I'll go ahead and get started. I've made little marks. So with the feathers, what you have to do is you have to grade in and you have to grade out. And what does that mean? That means that I have to turn the corner, so I need some curvature here on the inside of the feather. And because the templates don't really change, it can be a little tricky to get what you want. So you can see I did a little pre-drawing with it to kind of show you what that might look like and to make sure that it had a look that I liked. So it's pretty easy to stop in the middle of the feather and just mark where you want to reset again. Right here is where I'd want to pick up the needle because this is the first shape that I want to go on. And then I'll come out here and I'll do this one. And then actually from there, I'm going to come around. And usually I don't do that. I don't usually come out of the spine first. The way that I do my feathers is I do one feather and then the next one. And then I start from this top area. So I'll show you a little bit of that. So this is a class really about finding your inner designer. Templates will do a lot of things for you, but they can't give you the design, you know, and vary it up to meet your needs. So right now we're going to look for this template, and let's see, let me grab these. All right, I think that is this size. So let me just check real quick. Oh no, I think we need a bigger one. So what I'm looking for, let me show you right here. Let me turn this. So right now, this is the spine, and I need a template that will give me 1/4 inch as I sew back into the spine. So right there, that other one was too small. He wasn't allowing me to. And let me show you one other alignment here. As this sews, this is the edge right here of the border. That's the inside of the corner right there, right here. I do not want my feather to cross into this design. I want to make sure that I'm at that boundary right there. And then I've also got to have 1/4 inch over here. So I might have to kind of manipulate him and flip him around a little bit to get what I need on both sides. So right here, I think we're good. I don't think he'll cut in. And I'm lined up here on the back, and I should be able to come right into the spine. Tap the spine and come back out to the top. All right, so now I want to see, I think I need to come back just a few stitches here. Went a little further than I wanted. Now, here is the spine right here. So again, I've got to put the feather on, and I've got to make sure that I can touch the spine out here. Let me see if it's better for you this way. Oh yeah, that's much better. So here's the spine. Let's mark it in just a little bit more so you guys can see. It's kind of faded. So that's the spine right there. So when I put this on, I've got to make sure that I can touch it somewhere. I got to make sure that I'm within the spine boundary. Once it touches the spine, then I can come back a little bit over here. Now remember, we said we want to be in the spine, so I'm going to have to kind of stitch out a little bit on the spine, just a little bit. And even if that's messy, once we sew the spine, we'll clean that up, so it's no big deal. So here, I'm just going to sew in until I touch right there, and that will be the lobe right here. So let's make sure we have a 1/4 inch. Kind of want to get close, but we don't want to cut into anybody. I think we got the wrong side. There we go. All right, and double check one more time. So he'll close in right there. And now the spine is going the other direction now, and now I can just start designing with that spine. And let me show you real quick. So right now, because mine is narrower, this is where I would maybe get a smaller template, because this one seems a little big for this space. So now is when we would narrow it out with one smaller template, and then as it widens out, then we'll pick up a bigger template here as it gets bigger. Okay, so that's the inside. Let's show you that real quick. All right, and again, this will all get cleaned up because there's a template right here. This is a circle, half of a circle right here around the corner. And then this is a back-to-back template for the spine. And that's gonna help clean that all up and make that really pretty. And the way I usually do it is I sew one side and then I do the spine and then I sew the other one. But for you, I wanna just make sure that we're just focusing on how to fit things. So let's go ahead. If you look right here, this is kind of a big space right here. So I'm gonna go ahead and just real quickly test out and see, can I fit into the spine with this template or not? All right, so let's come on over here. We'll get our thread seated right where we need to, and then we'll get a test to see if that design, if that's the right template for that space. All right, cut that off. Now, I'm gonna address really quickly. A lot of people are like, oh, this takes so much time. What else do I have to do except make it look awesome, right? This is, if you want it done fast, you send it out and you have somebody else do it. Here, you are finding your inner artist and you are playing, and this is your work. And when you're done, people are gonna say, oh my gosh, she worked on that, it looks amazing. Okay. So real quick, there's my 1/4 inch. I'll prove it. I can see it, but maybe you can't. Right there. Okay. So touch the spine and back up to the top. And let me see if I can make sure you can see it better. So we are going to work our way up into the spine and up to the corner. So always on this side, looking for a 1/4 inch and a 1/4 inch or less on this side, because I don't want to go over the boundary. So we're not too far. We need probably about 4 feathers, I think, in order to get into the corner there. Touch the spine. Now, let's see what we got. So I think I can fit one more in here, and then this one, I want to push the one that is next up into the corner as much as possible. So I think I might put a little small one in right here. That'll leave more room for the big one that I want to be right here. So I'm going to go down one step to a little bit smaller feather. And that kind of protects our space there at the top. Okay, he'll be just a little bit smaller, but he'll touch the spine. Okay, now I'm right sort of in this middle area, and I can put this large feather on here, and I want to try to center him so he fits as best he can. So this is the miter line right there. Where's my corner? Let me mark that a little bit better so you guys can see. I want to make sure you see what I'm trying to look for. Oh, hang on, let me get it right there. Okay. So there's the line right there, and there's the miter right there. So let me show you how we fit this feather in there. All right, so there's our space right there. We don't want to sew outside the boundary, so we might have to shorten that a little bit. And then we also want to make sure we can come back into the spine. So we're trying to fill this little space right here to the best of our ability, as much as we can. And that could even mean if I sew maybe 1 or 2 stitches up, then I might be able to turn it, or maybe I need to go back down so that I can have more manipulation space with the template. So let me show you. If we go back down, look at how much more room I can get in there. So I think we'll sew that. I think that'll work. And then we won't go up as far, but we'll kind of get this next one right into the spine right there. So here we're going to start turning this template a bit more. We want to kind of keep this in the same spot or close to it as we go around the corner. So this part stays, and then this part pivots. And that's how we do the outside. So we're going to try to keep this close to the same space. And now we should be turned the corner. The corner's all the way turned. Oh, sorry, I think we broke one of our lights. Hang on just a second. Okay, and that boundary again. And now we're pretty much all the way turned the corner, and now we can just continue with the design. So let me see, I'll flip it. The name of my marker pen. So this is Fons & Porter. This is a ceramic chalk pencil, and it actually even erases. So pretty useful. Could you guys see that? Was I even in view? I tried to erase it. Let's see. Right there. You can see that the lines will erase. Okay. So there's my feather, my turned feather. Can you guys see that? And then we can just finish out the feather. And I don't do both sides at the same time. I do one side and one side. So right here, the spine would close all of those, but I would do all the feathers on the top and then all the feathers on the inside. Okay, so let me tie this off, and then we need to talk about something else. Okay. Somebody asked earlier, do you start at the corner? You can absolutely start at the corner, and that makes the symmetry in the corner a lot easier, because then you can make half of the miter and then the other half, and you can make them perfectly symmetrical. It's a lot easier. But if your quilt isn't symmetrical in its dimension, that would mean that you would get to the middle and one side would be different than the other side, and you could never connect them up easily. So I did think about that, and so I want to show you some ideas for how you can connect them if your centers don't match up, because then you could have a lot easier time making your corners, but then you'd have to fudge the center of your quilt. So let me show you what those look like. Give me just one sec. So these are the same designs that we did before, and I'm going to show you just a few ideas for how you could do them. So here the quilt is drawing in, and I made it so that this particular design, it can't connect. It would not fit if we just kept going. These two would not fit with each other. What is the name of my marking pen? What, this one? This one right here?
The pencil, you just had the ceramic pencil that you were just doing. She just missed the name of it.
Yeah, Fons and Porter is this one. This is ceramic chalk pencil. And this is air erase. This particular pen is made by Collins. And it's also water erase, but I mean, if you just leave it out, the air will take the markings off. And I love both of these. These are great tools and they are super useful. Okay, so we have already sewn these two. So this would assume that you made your perfectly symmetrical corners out here and then you just continued sewing from two different directions. So you sewed towards the middle from this side and you sewed towards the middle, and then you got to some space where this is the middle and you're like, oh my gosh, they don't fit. What am I gonna do? And sometimes if they don't fit, this might not be the middle exactly. It might be a little bit on this side or it might be a little bit on that side. But either way, you would go as much as you could until you created a little space. And I recommend a little bigger space than a little smaller, because if I did another of this loop right here, then there would be this much space right in between, like that, between one of these, because this loop would take up most of that and it still wouldn't connect. So it's better to leave a little bit of space so that you have flexibility to put something in there rather than cram it so tight that you can't even put anything intentional in there. So bigger is better. It's okay to leave a big space. So here, what I thought I would do is keep the same symmetry of the design that's already on there. And let me grab that template really fast. Templates are getting mushy. I don't know where everything is anymore. This one, fishy. Okay. Okay, so here's fishy. And I kind of drew him in so that you can see how he would fit, but we'll just line him up. So we're gonna line him up right on the center, and that will be a very intentional look for him. So let's get everybody lined up. Center line here and center line, and then on the reference lines here. Come on. Does not want to pick up that thread. There we go. All right, thanks for your patience. Always when we're trying to show so many things, I appreciate you letting me pick up my bobbin threads and shuffle. Okay, so I got everybody lined up and we're gonna sew all the way around the shape like that. And then I'll show you another idea. So these aren't gonna touch right now. They're not gonna match because obviously they don't. That's why we're even going through this. If they matched, then you don't need to do anything, right? So let me just show you what it looks like really quick. It's really close, but there is a little gap in here. So I'm gonna just sew over a 1/4 inch and get my template back on. Sorry, let me get these threads out of here. All right, now I can sew a little echo here. And if I want it to be even a little bigger echo, I can do that. And now we are almost essentially lined up. So let me show you what that'll look like. So now we have a little echo, but it's very symmetrical. And now we'll come over on this side. All right, and let me make sure I am showing you really nicely. All right, so let's see. We might have to flip him to be able to manipulate better. I lost my place. Where am I? Okay, here we go, on this side. So we want to line up essentially this side right here and get a little echo just like we did on this side. We need sort of a 1/4 inch echo. So, all right, so I'm all lined up. Let's see if I can make sure I'm on my center line. And I guess we want to touch there. So we'll have to come over a little bit more. No, I think I had it right the first time. Okay, so here we go. So maybe we'll touch right there. Oh, pretty good. We did well. So we're in the boundary right here, and we'll just kind of close off the design right there. And we'll take this off so you can see. So there's the design right there. So you have this centered, and then these pretty much are almost touching. You could actually make them touch if you wanted to by just shuffling over a little bit and using this as the reference and not the center one. I used the center and it didn't quite fit, but you can see that would be a very much in the same feeling of the design, right? And it would create a lot of the same looks for it. And then you would have this center on each different quadrant of the quilt. And that's a really pretty simple thing to do. It's not really that complicated. You just center that, and then you're just doing a little echo. So that would be a really easy way to make these corners connect, and that is very sympathetic to the original design and not super busy. All right, so let's do another one. Let me grab this right here. Okay, so let's show you this one. So this one, I went ahead and I sort of stopped the designs, and they're sort of equidistant, and we want some overlapping connection, and we want something that feels very sympathetic right there. Okay, so we can go ahead and we can put the heart shape. This is a 3-inch heart, and this is a 3-inch border. So technically it should fit perfectly. The quilt will draw up a little bit over time, so we kind of want to make sure that we're aligned as best as possible. I might even put a center line if I was going to add this in so that I could have it centered. And I want it to stop at the bottom at the exact same place as all of these other units. So if the quilt had drawn up a little bit and it wouldn't, I would fudge it. I would make it end with the point of the heart down at the bottom so that everybody is on the same level. Okay, so it is going to cut into this design right there. And let's see if we can get everybody lined up. All right. So it's going to get that same kind of little curvature there as the other hearts have. And to keep you being able to see it. And then we'll line it up. And we would use our spacing gauge right here, make sure that we're going to get an exact closure right here. We want to make sure that our heart is going to close right where we want it to, because this will be very visible. It'll be right in the center. So we do want to have it look as precise as we can right there. All right, and then I don't know if you can see, but right here I put some little flourishes down here on the bottom. If you're going to do that, then you should sew up and back down so that you end right there so you can put the flourishes in right there. But I'll just tie this off and I'll let you see what that looks like. And again, this is a very sympathetic design, and it echoes a lot of the same ideas with the kind of curvature in here and how you've got this little overlap. But it does give a lot of texture, and it closes the center visual right there. So can be a really great way to just use a different template and then make this match up. And of course, if we needed maybe 2 of those, we didn't, want to put more of those, but we wanted 2 hearts, we can have 2 hearts. You could even have a heart going up and a heart going down or something like that. I mean, everything is up to you. You can play with that as much as you want to. All right, so this first one, we used the same template, and we just did a slight echoing in the center to kind of fill in. And even if this wasn't, say this wasn't the center line, maybe one side filled more than the other, I would put this marking in the center of the space and work out, okay? Not necessarily in the center of the border, but in the center of whatever space is left. And then same here, you're gonna work towards it, and then whatever space you have, that would be the center mark. With this one, what we're gonna do with this one is use a template that is kind of sympathetic and put some elements in there, but try to keep the same matching that we can. So let me grab one. I'll show you what I'm talking about. I need the oval. Oh, shoot. It's an oval shape. I don't know, did I move something? I don't see it under there. Alrighty guys, I'm tap dancing. I had everything on my stacker. It's not. It's not. It's similar to that, but it's not that shape. Oh, found it. Found it, but without his little part on there.
Is that this?
That's not the right one. There's so many of those. Alrighty, so I seem to have lost my little key. I don't know, I'm so disorganized, darn it. But what I thought we could do is, I know what the spacing is here, and I can put this oval on here. This is a 3-inch oval, so I know it will fit in this boundary right here. And I know that I can set it up where it will be a 1/4 inch. So it's gonna touch just like this. It'll give the same look right here as far as the curve, but then it'll be a little rounder on top. So we'll go ahead and we'll draw it in since we don't have the key. So I would line it up in the center, making sure that my spacing on the top and the bottom is the same, and get my 1/4 inch right there so that he'll touch. And my trusty stitching line disc. And I can sew just the arc, or I can sew the whole thing. So we'll just kind of fudge it in there like that, right? So that's this side. And then if we do the whole thing, this is the middle right here. So I could back stitch up to the middle. I'll flip it over. And then I can do the same line up here. You kind of have to figure out where it's going to overlap a little bit, right? So I can stitch up on this one, and I can touch there. And then you could put some unique fill in here, which kind of makes it look a little bit more intentional, but you get these same type of spaces, only they're a little narrower, and you can adjust that narrowness by scooting the ovals closer together or further apart to take up whatever space is available. And this is a very symmetrical kind of a look, so it has a lot of the same flavor of the design out here. And so, I just look for something that could kind of create this. And you don't need an oval. You could use an arc. We have any of like the 4-inch arc. I think the 3-inch might be too narrow to fit there, but it might work. And that would let you put in an arc on each side. And that definitely helps you kind of create the same flavor. And again, whatever space that you have available in your border, you're building that center line wherever the center of the space is. So don't necessarily limit yourself to having it have to be right in the middle, because if you have a rectangle, it may not be symmetrical for whatever reason, but mostly it usually is. I mean, if you're doing one side of the border and you're working from the corner, you should be able to be mostly in the middle, but you know, don't worry about that too much. And then I'm not going to sew another feather here, but I just wanted to share this as a visual. If we're coming this way with a feather and we're coming this way, which does happen frequently, I can't mesh up two feathers that are going opposing directions. If you were going the same direction, it wouldn't be an issue, but if you're having them sort of abut each other, you need some type of break in the middle. And so when I designed this, I made the feather so that it could come up and fill this space as much as possible. But then you could make a diamond in here and then even put an extra, you know, another diamond in there. You'll get a little puff. And then you would quilt this feather all the way to this side, and your spine essentially would connect right on those spaces right there. So that would be the additional elements. So somebody was asking earlier, you know, do you start in the corner or not? That really is a decision, a design decision for you. So either you'll have to adjust a corner or you'll have to adjust a center. Somehow you're going to have to make them fit. And you can do what you want to do. You know, give yourself room for designing though if you're working towards your middle. So let me just real quick make sure that I've answered some questions.
So I think the only one I saw that we didn't answer was, do you always miter corners or do you square corners?
So somebody just asked, I guess maybe they asked earlier, do you do a square corner? So what am I going to tell you? If you have a square corner, then you don't need to do anything. You just center your design in the middle and you work, well, okay, I guess you have to center it. I would center it. I would pick, you know, whatever, if I wanted this right in the middle of the center, I would do half of it and I'd work out to the corner and I'd work out to the corner. And then the corners, there's no requirement to make them match. You're putting something else in there. And then that is certainly the easiest cornering technique that there is. What we're talking about is, you know, if you're trying to find something that you can make match with your templates, you know, I go rummage in my drawer and I find, you know, any shape that is somewhat sympathetic or that'll create some additional design element that's going to work well with what I already have. But if you're doing separate corners, then there's not a lot of additional fudging required. You could just put that separate element in there. So I would, again, I'd start in the middle so that I can get the look in the middle that I want. And you could put a designer center in the middle. You could do one of these if you wanted, and then just let your border go out until it hits. And that way there's a little focal point right here in the corner, and that gives you a little fun visual in your borders if you wanted to do that. So I'm going to answer Charlotte. I hope I'm not pronouncing your name wrong, Nidell. She asked if I'm on a regular sewing machine. I am. I'm sewing on a domestic Janome machine right now, and it has an integrated ruler work feature, which I do really enjoy. Many sewing machines are terrific for ruler work. There's just so many great machines out there. I am a long armor also. Right now, I am sewing for you completely on my domestic. When I show you something in one of our Facebook Lives, the majority of our participants are domestic sewing machine users. So it is my plan and my hope in the near future to have a segment that will be dedicated to Westalee long arm templates, because Westalee makes amazing long arm templates. And I have people tell me all the time, oh, they don't make long arm templates. Yes, they do. They are fabulous. So if you are a long armor, check in with me and I will talk to you, because they have amazing long arm templates. Okay, so let's see how we're doing. Let me just check if I had it. Okay. All right, so if there's any last questions, I'll give you a minute and to add in. And then if there's anything else, then you can find me. I'm on Fabricated Quilts on Facebook. And I also have a ruler work support group, which is called Getting Started with Sew Steady and Westalee Products. And that is a private group that you can ask to join. And we do answer questions there. We do have a lot of people putting their beautiful projects out there for sharing, and I check it every day. So if you have some questions, I do try to help people with their stuff, and so that they can move forward. So anyway, thank you so much for watching, and I don't think I see any more additional questions. So yeah, so real life. So I want you to dig into your ruler drawer, dig out anything that could be a border template, get your stitching line discs, get your piece of paper, and find your inner designer and be amazing, because I know that you are. Quilters have a natural creativity, and you can find something awesome. Okay, well, you guys, thank you so much for being here. I appreciate you taking your time, and have a wonderful quilting day and a great week. And I hope that you all stay safe and stay healthy and have a lot of creativity and positive things in your life. Okay, Kate Quinn, I'm signing off. Have a great day, you guys. Bye-bye.